Good afternoon to this post-afternoon tea session, and we hope that the content will be sufficient to continue to keep you awake. Just a few, repeat the housekeeping notes. Please protect yourselves and others from risk of COVID. The hand sanitizer is available at the registration desk, and if you've got COVID, please go home. Thank you to all our sponsors, in particular the gold sponsor, the National Archives of Australia. And please also drop by the exhibitors' stands. It makes them happy and makes the ASA happy too. And please remember to take all your gear with you at the end of the day. If you've got dietary requirements, I hope you've managed to find your appropriate ones, and each day this will continue. And just to remind you about the symposium on Friday afternoon by the ASA, NAA and UNESCO for the Australian Memory of the World program, courtesy of you, courtesy of Adrian Cunningham, who will be speaking later. This is a hybrid event and you can register via the conference app. And don't forget to use the Here We Are 2022 for any social media you are posting. We have three speakers. The first one is Sean Wright, who is the Assistant Director for the Integrated Archival Management System program at the National Archives. Sean works with a multidisciplinary team that are utilising agile and co-design techniques to ensure that business and collection requirements are met as part of implementing an end-to-end integrated archival management system, and so on and so forth. I'll hand over to Sean now.
Thanks very much. Let me begin by paying my respects and acknowledgement to the traditional owners and custodians of the land that I'm on, the Ngambri and Ngunnawal peoples, and acknowledge their continuing connection to the land and community. I pay my respect to the people, their cultures and elders past, present and emerging. I also extend my respect to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders in attendance here today or online. Next slide, please. Now, journeys, the slides coming through. Always fun to be the first up. Journeys to new spaces and places capture our imaginations. Whether it is travelling in history or through literature, the journey and what is encountered and happens on the way can be just as memorable as the end destination. Take Homer's Odyssey, for example. The tales of new spaces and new places encountered by Odysseus on his long journey home continue to capture the imagination even today. Now, I'm not going to take you all the way back to antiquity. I'm going to talk about something a little bit more recent. Now, at the National Archives, we hold the memory of our nation and keep vital Australian government records safe. We do this so everyone can access evidence of government decisions and actions, making them transparent and accountable. Our records connect the public with the stories and the people that define our past, shape our future and help safeguard our democracy. Now, a few years ago, the archives began a journey to a new space and a new place, one which is developing new practices and ways of operation as an archive itself. The journey was towards an integrated archival management system. And as you will see in this presentation, it is more than just a technical uplift of business systems and capability. It's about embracing new ways of working to meet the challenges of tomorrow that we see emerging to us as an archive. Next slide, please. Now, there's a lot of strands of work going on at the National Archives, and if you've had a chance to chat to any of our team out front, you're probably aware that there's quite a lot of things that we do at the National Archives, and it's a complex picture when you consider our operations as a Commonwealth Government agency empowered by the Archives Act 1983. Now, this is just a word cloud that I generated from our most recent corporate plan that captures many of the different strands of what we do and what we're working on and what we're aiming to do. Now, the first question you may have is when you start where do you start when your current place is so complicated and there are so many strands to consider? Where do we begin our journey? So let's head back to the start to do a little bit of backstory on our journey that we've been undertaking. Next slide, please. Now, the changing landscape of records, information and data has led us to the need to move to a new place and a new space. The shift to digital under the digital transition, the digital continuity 2020 and the building trust in the public record policies has been a response to an explosion of information records and data being created by government. Our annual check-up survey of Australian Commonwealth government agencies provides key data over time that has shown the trend of how much information, both analogue and digital, has been produced by the Commonwealth government. Now, the volume of digital information and data held by agencies recorded an average growth of over 180% a year over the period between 2010 and 2020, moving to 200 petabytes in 2020. A sharp increase has also occurred in the proportion of agencies that report managing information digitally by default, from 30% in 2010 to 92% in 2020. Now, if we take the assumption that 5% of this volume needs to be kept permanently to be retained as the National Archive, this indicated to us that we needed to prepare over the coming decade for an influx of digital-born and digitised records. Now, coupled with this was also another driver, an internal driver, our flagship policy, the Building Trust in the Public Record policy for government. Now, one of the mandatory actions, which from memories, putting myself on the spot here, action 14 I think, is committing government agencies to the transfer of digital records retained as National Archive information assets as soon as practicable, or alternatively within 15 years of their creation, to the care of the National Archives. So this reflects the fact that in the digital age, the process of securing the archival collection for the future needs to accelerate to protect information from technical obsolescence and loss through neglect. Now, another thing that we did which couples with the rise of digitisation and physical records. When you couple this with the rise of digitisation of physical records to enable access, and an earlier policy decision that all digital records created post 1st of January 2016 needed to be managed as digital records, we realised we had to set a new course for a new space to be ready for the influx of digital records into the collection. So where to begin? Now, our first generation digital archive and policies were developed almost 20 years ago as an experimental platform to deal with what was then the new phenomenon of digital government archiving. Since that time, technology, business practices and international standards have continued to develop, and cyber threats have evolved significantly. Now, this existing digital archiving capability and policy framework we realised could not scale to meet the need of our projected needs, or meet the minimum requirements for archival and preservation management, such as set under the Open Archival Information System International Standard, ASA2022. So, to summarise the drivers for change that we were facing, apart from the policy settings, it boils down to three main things that we realised that we needed to face. Cybersecurity, keeping our records secure, preserved and authentic for the future. The second was the government's program of digital transformation overall, transforming the way that we do business, putting the end user and public at the centre of how we design policy and systems, and building holistic end-to-end processes from an efficiency point of view. And the third was the information is the new oil challenge, the increased volume of data and the drive to unlock the economic value of that data that we needed to retain. Next slide, please. Now, on this screen, I'm going to put this up, which is the vision and image that you see on the screen. It's recently been updated in our Strategy 2030 as part of our new Strategy 2030. But I thought I'd put this up to share with you how we've been operating over the past couple of years and what really is a big, hairy, audacious goal, a BHAG for the National Archives of Australia. Now, When you're considering to setting your vision to be a world-leading archive in this digital age, one of the big challenges is you may be tempted to fall into, as we at the archives have in the past, fall into the trap of paralysis by analysis of the problem. Or, as one colleague so eloquently put it to me, the trap of admiring the problem. Now, with the backstory I've presented and such a big goal in the form of the vision that you see on the screen, how do you execute and head to where you need to be? Now, to determine this and where to begin, we consider our first principles. Next slide, please. We mapped out our key elements of what we wanted to achieve, as illustrated on the slide being shown, to use as our North Star and provide a benchmark for measuring our progress. One key challenge we found was that our processes, even those that were digital, were based on traditional paper paradigms, which didn't necessarily leverage the benefits of new and emerging technologies. We would need to consider new methods and archival principles carefully. Another consideration was the risk of not changing. We believe that the archives must change. If we didn't, we couldn't guarantee irreplaceable government information would be protected and preserved. Now, at the same time as we were setting course on our journey, we had a functional efficiency review, otherwise known as the Tune Review, into the National Archives, and it agreed with these assessments and proposed that we continue to invest and develop in a next generation digital archive. Next step, please. Now, following a review of our capability gaps, digital archival management and digital preservation was recognised as a critical need. We had an approach to market that we made, and the implementation of Preservica, a digital preservation solution, was approved in 2020 to address the NAA's digital preservation needs. It was proposed to implement Preservica in line with an incremental plan. The goal was to realise progressive improvements to business capability and to meet the priority NAA requirements, including digital transfer and ingest, commencing with transfers in current formats, ensuring metadata for archival control and description of digital records is available through integration of Preservica with our main system record search, preservation of digital material according to best practice, and staff access to digital records. But to align with our strategic principles and direction, digital preservation wasn't being addressed in isolation. We needed to walk and chew gum at the same time. Upgrades and technical uplifts of key archive systems were in progress to address additional capabilities required to deliver an end-to-end integrated archival management system. Why integrated? Because it needed to align with our end-to-end business processes for archival management and meet the key challenge of simplifying the way we work, rather than adding another system and another layer of complexity. This new space was recognised also as a type of nirvana. We may not get there straight away, but we would progress to it over time, stripping away the complexity and barriers with each new iteration. But IAMS, as we use the acronym internally, is where the rubber meets the road. After strategising, procuring and planning, things began to take shape. Now, the first place and space we headed to was a pilot of IAMS, and it was the first stepping stone along the way that we took towards our destination. The pilot considered the feasibility of integrating elements of the solution we had selected and served as a launch pad for embedding design-based thinking into the implementation process. The pilot also established our governance and led to the development of a couple of business cases for elements of our archival management system we would seek to implement in an agile and iterative fashion. We figured out where we wanted to go and also where we did not want to go and the order of priority. We would uplift some internal systems and procure others off the shelf where fit for purpose. One key learning was to start small and build on the success of what we're doing. We're gathering momentum over time and building confidence in the new ways of working. Next slide, please. I might just talk for a minute about some of the things we've learned along the way on our journey. One of the key challenges we realise is that the digital revolution does not stop, and there's a number of challenges we've faced along the way. Some of the key challenges we've found on the journey are new technologies are always emerging. There's a horizon with new and emerging technologies that we must consider over time, but we may not necessarily be able to implement. Increasing challenges in areas such as cybersecurity. The recent Optus data breach is an example of attention being brought wholly by the wider community on the importance of cybersecurity. The move to new and emerging platforms for the organisation, such as the cloud, the importance for the archive to consider new platforms, and this requires change not just to the solutions that we put in place, but to infrastructure and the establishment of strong foundations. The challenge of greater public engagement through a diverse range of digital channels. Whereas in the past, the number of channels for engagement for end users has been limited, now it is extensive and we need to move to where the users are. And I spoke before about the 180% year-on-year growth in terms of digital information. Even greater increase or exponential growth in digital information coming into our care. So the Australian government continues to create more and more data and information that needs to be retained for perpetuity. In a sense, the challenges have created a perfect storm, where we could have been caught in a loop of self-reflection and admiring the problem. With the emerging new technologies, you could be stuck considering when to commence with the change. Next slide, please. Realising this, we needed a shift and change in our culture, and it's been essential to change our culture as one of the things that we've learned along the way. We needed to stop admiring the problem and instead start embracing change. We could continue to consider the challenges or begin working towards achieving our vision and get some runs on the board. And this is where agile methodologies for change have come into the picture. These ways of working, particularly breaking large tasks down into different ways and approaches, such as breaking things into smaller chunks like epics, features, user stories. Smaller, more achievable and agreed outcomes have given these things a sense of momentum. And this is the key cultural change, shifting the patterns of how we execute our work. Now, the NAA values innovation, looking for better ways and new ways to do business and deliver digital services that are user-centred and embrace the future. This has relied on the use of agile and user-centred design methodologies to speed up the process of delivering gradual change. And it's also allowed us to allow quicker development and the ability to pivot quickly to learn from where things have not gone to plan. Next slide, please. Another crucial thing on our journey that has been crucial to our success in delivering on digital transformation has been business buy-in. In particular, bringing our stakeholders into the process as equals to co-design solutions to our challenges. This has helped improve our approach to different elements, including development of user stories through to testing and user acceptance. It also puts the user at the centre of the design process. Next slide, please. I'd like to talk about a new place we've come to, which is called Nyanyi. Now, while we've achieved our plans for digital preservation through the implementation of Preservica, we haven't rested on our laurels. We've continued to increment and agilely change by selecting components of our Integrated Archival Management System to address and improve. Now, two of the benefits we've discovered from this approach are the steady delivery of benefits and the ability to change to new and emerging technologies over time. One area that this has occurred is the new staff discovery collection platform, Nyanyi. Our co-design approach has been a key to its success also. By meeting regularly with a working group comprised of business stakeholders, we've received regular and direct feedback to guide the implementation and allow us to change incrementally over time. This approach empowered the business to innovate as the stakeholders are helping shape the end product in real time, and the priorities we focus on in sprints and provide feedback early and often. Next slide, please. We brought our business with us by demonstrating the benefits to them. An example of this is the Solar search engine, which offer superior search capabilities such as faceted search, full text search, ranked search, ranked results and real-time indexing. Solar is an example of something that's used on many global websites today, and applications including Instagram, Netflix, eBay, for example. This has had an advantage for our staff to give us new search options which our older systems were not capable of. Another new place for the IAM's program of work is the transformation of management and preservation of our digital collection images. We launched the new in-house developed Digi-app late last year. It offers significant automation and business benefits for digitisation staff nationally. It validates and automatically sends digital images to Preservica for preservation and Record Search for public access. Digi-app's been a key enabler and support for digital preservation activities at the National Archives as the organisation ramps up digitisation of the collection for greater visibility and access. Next slide, please. Thank you. As I mentioned earlier, we have made great strides in changing our culture, but there is much more to do. Next slide, please. Much more to do. As you can see here in the metamorphosis of the Wanderer butterfly, we've been undergoing a metamorphosis internally. And as much as I'd like to say that our journey is complete, we acknowledge that the pace of change requires continuous improvement and delivery of ongoing transformation. A key message is that the change is the constant and the new normal. This can cause stresses on people, and it's not just in the workplace that the change is happening. We're working to ensure change management is embedded in how we tackle the challenge of moving to where we need to be. Our culture is changing, and we need to continue to change to meet the challenges of what comes next. Next slide, please. Before I conclude, I'd like to share a little bit about the public access front, which is an area we have not forgotten and where we'll be concentrating on in the future. As part of the IAM's program, we have launched an enhanced public engagement experience using emerging technologies to provide a 3D rendering of our voices, or DUNI, exhibition. It provides an immersive experience including high-resolution images and of display items and talking head videos, providing additional insight into the content. This digital twin takes visitors on a journey through federation, the history of the Australian Constitution and the rights and freedoms it guarantees. This exploratory trial is a peek of what the future holds as the IAM's program implements contemporary and modern tools and technologies and continues to take a human-centred approach to make the National Archival Collection available anytime and from anywhere, so that researchers for generations to come will have instantaneous access to digitised and born digital records. The creation of this digital twin brings our exhibitions to members of the public who cannot visit our national office or who want to share their experience with others. Next slide, please. Now, while we've delivered a number of things on our journey to new places for the archives, there's still a fair way to go for the IAM's program of work. We've delivered on the first 3 phases of the program of work, and we've recently had an injection of funding last year under the Defend the Past, Protect the Future program of work across the next 4 years, meaning that the work will continue with some new developments in the pipeline. One area that we are progressing towards iteratively is our Commonwealth Records Series system archival control model, building elements of the archival control model into our archival catalogue in the way that we describe records and provenance. Work is underway at present in a couple of streams on both the policy and the technical challenges to our systems that the recent archival control model present. One thing I can assure you is that innovation is going to continue, and while it may not always be necessarily visible to our public and to our stakeholders, the archives is modernising and building better ways of doing things across our end-to-end work and process flows. Our journey is moving us closer, step by step, to be a world-leading archive in this digital age, and we're ensuring that authentic government information is created, secured, preserved and accessible for future generations, protecting our precious collections and nation's memory through an integrated archival management system. Thanks for the opportunity to share this with you, and we'd like to wish you all the best on your own archival journeys to new places and new spaces. Are there no time for questions? No, okay. Thanks very much.